So, apart from Turtonator sounding like some kind of supervillain in a movie, this Pokemon is actually pretty good. His base 60 HP is actually very low for a Pokemon that's supposed to be super bulky, but his base defense more than makes up for it at 135, one of the most defensive Pokemon there are in the game. His base special defense at 85 actually isn't bad either, which means he can take hits on both sides, and he is a prime candidate for an Assault Vest, which is actually a set one of you recommended to me. I made some tweaks to it, but it is the best set for this Pokemon. Between his offenses, they're actually both usable. His special attack is a bit higher at 91, and it's usually better to use it because his special coverage is actually pretty good too. But that doesn't mean we're completely ruling attack out yet, because I actually have a set that uses that. And past this, he has base 36 speed, which is not very good at all. So, Turtonator is a fire dragon, which is very interesting looking at him. I would have never guessed he was a dragon, but I think it's pretty cool that they've put a Pokemon in the game other than Reshiram that has this typing, and other than Charizard X, but still. His only weaknesses are ground, rock, and dragon, because his fire typing actually cancels out the fairy weakness and the ice weakness that dragon would normally have, and the dragon typing cancels out the water weakness. So it's a really good typing, especially for a Pokemon as defensive as him. He also resists fire, electric, grass, bug, and steel, which is very useful, especially for Pokemon that like to U-turn. You could run something like a Rocky Helmet on him to deal more damage to your opponent, and things like that. His only ability is Shell Armor, which really there's not much to say about it. If you have Shell Armor, you cannot be hit by a critical hit. That's all there is to it. It's really kind of one-dimensional in its ability because it doesn't get anything like Flame Body or anything that you could trick your opponent into thinking you may have. But it's not the worst ability either. So the first set is the Assault Vest variant that we were talking about earlier, with either a modest or quiet nature depending on if you were running Trick Room or not. And I know I'm beginning to sound like a broken record with Trick Room, but really I see it being used more this generation. Max out your HP except for a little bit so that you can switch in once more on Stealth Rocks. Max out your special attack and give yourself a little more in either defense. It really doesn't matter which one, just do something with those EVs. You could run either Flamethrower or Fire Blast, and you could run either Dragon Pulse or Draco Meteor. And both of these depend on if you want reliability or if you want power. Because while both Fire Blast and Draco Meteor are considerably stronger, they both have either a chance to miss, or in Draco Meteor's case, they can lower your special attack, which is not very good because then your opponent is free to switch something in on you to set up. But really, it's what you prefer. I normally run the moves that cannot miss, but in his case, where he only has base 91 special attack, it may be better to run the stronger moves. After this, Flash Cannon is good for dealing with fairy types that may think they can switch in for free on a dragon move, and then you smack them with a Flash Cannon. He also gets Focus Blast, which, while the accuracy is terrible, fighting type coverage is never a bad thing to carry. From that, his last move is really fairly interchangeable. You could run a Hidden Power to catch your opponent off guard, perhaps Hidden Power Ice or Grass. You could run Earthquake, even though your physical attack is reduced, you could still hurt things like Togedemaru that may wall you depending on what you carry. And then you could run Dragon Tail, which is probably what I would prefer on this set, just to phase your opponent out. They switch something in that walls you, and it takes Stealth Rock damage, let's say. You Dragon Tail it, force it out, something else comes in, takes Stealth Rock's damage, and then you're in a much better condition than you were. So, other moves he gets. Charge Beam was what was recommended on the original Assault Vest set, and while it's not bad, it's really not that good either. I mean, being able to set up while you have an Assault Vest is nice, but with him being so slow, if he were to pick up one knockout, it would probably be hard for him to pick up another unless it was late game, because most people have a very strong Pokemon that could run Earth Power or Earthquake and do quite a bit of damage to this guy, plus he's already taken some damage if he set up a Charge Beam and knocked something out. Shell Trap is a move that no matter how much research I do on it, I'm having trouble finding out everything about it. So if you know more about it, please leave it in the comments below, because I'd really like for people to learn and share information on this type of video. So from what I can tell, you activate the move, and if you're attacked in the same turn, then you deal a ton of damage to your opponent. It's 150 base power, special fire type move, so it's considerably powerful, but you have to get hit in the turn for it to activate. Now, in the trailer, it shows him setting up the trap and then getting hit by a torque hole using rapid spin, which is slower than a Turtonator. But in the official information, it says that the move has a priority of -3, meaning that it will very rarely go after your opponent, which must be either a typo or perhaps they have not fixed the information yet. But unless the move activates similar to Focus Punch, in which it says that you're setting up the trap as soon as the turn begins, and then if you're hit by a contact move or by a physical move or by any kind of move during that turn, then it does damage, then it would be useful. But if that text only pops up saying you set a trap once it becomes your turn as far as speed goes, then it's not as useful. So once more information comes out on that, I would be happy to update this video and let you all know exactly how it works, and that way you know. But for now, I'm still a little in the dark about it. Other moves he gets are Bulk Up, which could help a lot with his physical defense, even though he doesn't need it, and it could help a lot with bolstering his attack stat. He gets Earthquake, which is always great coverage, as I mentioned. Will-O-Wisp is good for calming down your opponent's physical threats if you were not running the Assault Vest set. And then he gets Shell Smash. Shell Smash is run on lots of Pokemon, even those that are considerably slow, such as Crustle, because it's a good move. It doubles your attack, it doubles your special attack, and it doubles your speed. But if your base speed is only 36, then even after a Shell Smash, you're not outspeeding hardly anyone. Now, this would mean you'd have to run a White Herb, reset your defenses, and Shell Smash again, and now lower your defenses just to have a chance of outspeeding most Pokemon. This makes it difficult for me to envision that Shell Smash could be a set on this Pokemon, and although I won't completely rule it out, I did not create a set on it myself, and perhaps it has some viability in the meta if it's slower, but really I just don't see a reason to run that over this set. But I might be a bit biased because I love bulky Pokemon, but really, it's just personal preference. If you think you can make Shell Smash work, you go ahead, sweep all the teams you want with Shell Smash Turtonator. But this set I thought would be very handy. It's very similar to a set that I like to run on Electros, and it is a Leftovers Turtonator with either Adamant or Careful Nature. Now, Adamant boosts your physical attack, as most of you know, and Careful Nature actually boosts your special defense while reducing your special attack. From here, you would run max HP, probably 248 instead of 252, so you would have an extra switch into Stealth Rocks because you're weak to them. Max out your special defense, and then give yourself a little extra attack. Then you'd run Bulk Up. And the reason I say run all your stats and run all your EVs in special defense is because Bulk Up is going to be boosting both your physical defense and your physical attack, so you really don't need the investment if you're able to get more than 1 or 2 up. And from here, if you remember, you cannot get critical hit at all because of your ability, which means that your opponent's physical attackers cannot touch you once you get a Bulk Up or 2 up. So this makes it very hard to break through a Turtonator late game if you decided to run this set. Now, from here, you just need to decide on what coverage you really need. Dragon Claw is the best stab dragon coverage he gets. Head Smash and Stone Edge, it really depends on whether you would have more longevity and you could run Stone Edge, and that way you wouldn't take recoil damage, or if you just wanted straight up power and you wanted to run Head Smash to do a lot more damage. The last move normally would be a fire type move, but unfortunately Turtonator's only physical fire type attack is Flame Charge, and as I already mentioned, raising this Pokemon's speed is not useful in my eyes. So really, Flame Charge is never going to be a good move to run on him, in my opinion. So instead of that, Earthquake is decent coverage, and Dragon Tail can force out your opponents that would normally wall you, as long as they're not fairy types. So really, I think I would prefer this set just because it's different and it's very hard to beat if you use it at the right moment near the end of the game, especially if your opponent only has physical attackers left. So Turtonator is an interesting Pokemon. Where he will end up in the meta strongly depends on how people use him, and especially on his Shell Trap ability, because if it works similar to Focus Punch, it'll be very hard to beat, because then you won't want to attack this Pokemon, and he could take advantage of that and set up in your face with either a Shell Smash or a Bulk Up. But if it doesn't work like that, then I'm afraid he may not be as viable, but we'll just have to wait and see.